Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Physics Connection, and in this video I'm gonna pick up where I left off last time, which is, if you remember, we had a bunch of pendulums swinging like that, and we made a prefabricated object over here that we called a pendulum that we can just throw into the scene and then it will just be swinging. And in this video I'm gonna show you how to make the user interface for this game, how to make a start and stop button that makes the pendulum start swinging and stop swinging, and I'm gonna show you how to display the timer on the screen that shows you the time of swinging for the pendulum. So let's start with the start button. Okay, so first I'm gonna delete these and then put a new one here. So in order to make a button, I'm gonna go to UI and you just add text. You can also add button, but I'm gonna add text here. And when you add a UI element, you get this canvas, which is, if you look at it, it's something over here that is detached from what the camera view is. The camera view is this tiny thing over there, if I go to it, but the canvas is over there and it's overlaid onto the screen. So whatever is on the canvas is mapped onto the screen, because if you look here, this is a screen space overlay, so it's just this box is mapped onto the screen. And you can do constant pixel size, or I can make it scale with the width or scale with the height. Okay, so there's our text that I added. This is gonna turn into the button. I can make it bigger by increasing the font size, and we can also put in like new different fonts, but we're just gonna stick with this one for now. And here you can say what the text tells you, so you can just write start. So this is a start button. You can make it colorful. Let's make it green, and I'll center it and make it bigger and bold. Okay, so this is a start button. Well, so far it's just a text, it's just a word. There's no, it doesn't do anything. In order to make it into a button, you have to add a button component to it. So let's do that. Just you add component button and you get this. So the text is just the text, whatever the button says, which is what we had over here. Okay, so what this color tint tells you is what happens as you approach this button. So I can make it green, and then if the mouse is on top of the button, then you will get this color, and when you press it you will get, let's say, this darker color. So if I start, then I can go and see it highlights, and then I can click it like that. But so far I didn't tell it what to do when I click it. All it does is click, but it doesn't do anything. And in order to make it do something, you just have to tell it what to do over here. This is on click. So now it doesn't do anything. This list is empty, but I can add something. And now I've added something here where I'm gonna tell this button what to do. In order to do that, let's just write the script that the button will accomplish when we click it. So let's dive into that. This is basically what I showed you last time, this swinging script, and we simply wrote down this statement that accomplishes our rotation for us. Now I want to make a start and stop button, so I want this rotation, I'm gonna put it into a method of its own. I'm gonna call it move. Let's say you have to do void when you want to define a function. Move. So if you don't know what a method is, just follow along and it will be clear in a second. So I'm gonna cut this and paste it over here, and now I have this method, and I can just say here move, right? So I didn't change anything here, nothing is different, I didn't accomplish anything so far. But now whenever I want to accomplish motion, I just have to write down this statement instead of this entire thing. Okay, on top of that, I'm gonna write another method that tells the pendulum to start swinging. So I'll just say, I'll call it void start pendulum, and I'm also gonna make it public. When you make something public, that means different things can access it. So you can access it from outside this script, and of course you want that because that's how you can make the button access this component. So let's continue. So now I just want to say, do something here that tells the pendulum to start or to stop. Before I do that, I want this move statement not to be always updated, not to be always going on. I want this statement to be executed only under a certain condition, when I click the start button. So I have to do like an if statement. If statement means if this thing is correct or true, then evaluate. And so what we're gonna do is gonna say if the start button is clicked, then we will evaluate. So let's do that. So far there's no variable that tells me whether the button is clicked or not, but I'm gonna define this variable right now and call it is swinging. This variable, see, it's red because I didn't define it. I'm gonna define it over here. I'm gonna say bool. Bool means it's true or false. It's something that can only take one of two values. Is it true? That would look like this. Or false. That would look like that. So I'm gonna give it a name, is swinging, and I'm gonna start it as false. So initially this is false. So the pendulum is not swinging initially. So if is swinging, then evaluate this move. So since this is false, if false doesn't do what is inside. So initially we're not gonna have a pendulum that is swinging. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is this method is just gonna make this variable true. So when I hit the button, this is gonna evaluate, and what this does is it makes the is swinging equal to true. And if is swinging is true, then this is gonna start moving. So now with this, we're ready to go and see what will happen when I hit start. Okay, so nothing is moving. I hit start. Oh, nothing's happening. So what's wrong? If you notice here, we didn't put anything, so the button still doesn't know what to do. So we're gonna look for the method that we just wrote, which is here under swinging. So I'm gonna you go back here and you take the pendulum and put it here. This is the object that has the thing that will be evaluated, and then we will look for it. We wrote it under swinging, and remember what we wrote was start pendulum. So this thing gets evaluated now, and now we can just try this. When you start, it starts swinging, but notice I can't stop it. It just starts. All I told it was to start. Okay, so cool, we have some user interface. Now you can interact with this game. What I'm gonna show you now is how to turn this button after you start, to turn it into a stop button, so you can do start, stop, start, stop. So let's go back to the spread, to what we just wrote. So this is the thing that we said will be evaluated when the pendulum, when the button is hit. I'm gonna change it to start. I'm gonna make something else now that will be more useful for us for the start and stop button, which will be called start, stop. And this either stops or starts the pendulum, depending on if it's already swinging or if it's already stopped. So if that doesn't make sense, again, just try to pause at this point and write it down for yourself. See, like, try to guess what I'm gonna write over here, and after you try, and you can also use Google if you get stuck, and then you can compare your answer to my answer. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm gonna say if is swinging. So if it's already swinging, then stop it. Notice it's red because I didn't define this method yet, but we will do it in a second. And then else, that means if it's not swinging, if it's not whatever you said here, then start the pendulum. Start pendulum. Okay, so we didn't write this yet, so let's write it. Again, you do public void and stop pendulum, and then you do these brackets, and here you say is swinging equals false. Okay, now this stops it, and whenever you click this one, it will start it after you stop it. So let's try it out and see how that works. I hope you tried it out by yourself, you're following along so that you can really learn this. Let's hit play. Okay, so you hit start. So I can hit start and it starts. And when I hit start, oh, still nothing's happening. Well, that's because we didn't update anything here. We didn't change it yet. We need to put in a different method, which is the one we just wrote, and that's start stop, right? You try it, and here I'm showing you my process. I haven't prepared it yet, so we're showing you how to figure things out along the way. So maybe when I stop it, something weird happens. This is not what we expected. So I hit start again, oh, and it starts to oscillate just like normal. But when I hit this, it does something weird. It stops the motion. So let's go back into the script and investigate. What we're starting and stopping is this behavior. This behavior brings, remember, it's the harmonic motion, it's the Hooke's law. It brings back your pendulum back to where you started it. It's like a force that brings you back to the center. When I stop this, I'm only bringing the force back to the center, and I'm not really stopping the pendulum. I'm not preventing the motion. To prevent the motion, we have to do this command. So you get this rigid body component, and then you say from the rigid body component, which controls the physics, and if you want to know more about that, watch the previous video. I talked about that in that video. For now, just know that this component holds physical variables like the force, like the velocity, like angular velocity and things like that. So what we want now is the angular velocity, and I want that to be 0. If that's 0, then the pendulum stops. And so whenever you stop the pendulum, I want the angular velocity to be 0. And I want to make the velocity 0 as well. So let's dot velocity equals vector 2 dot 0. Okay, so let's start. Let's try that out. You hit start, and you stop, and it stops. Now I start it again, and it just starts in this. It's oscillating a little because when I started it, it was there. So let's try to play it again. Hit start, you stop, start again, you stop, start again, you stop. That's cool, so it's working. But the weird thing is, this is always saying start. I want it to say stop now. Okay, so in order to get access to this, remember what we have. We have this text variable, there's this button, and on it there's this text variable. Okay, so we want to get access to this variable from this script over here. So in order to do that, you need to use something from Unity that helps you handle the user interface. So you go to unityengine.userinterface or UI, and then that allows you to define something like a text variable. And I'm gonna call that StartingStop text. Long name, but that's better. Okay, and initially, well, no, so that's going to be public. And public variables means that when I save this script, hit Control S, I'm gonna get, if I look at the script over here, there's gonna be, you can access it from this editor menu when you make it public. And what is the value of this text object? Well, this text object is a user interface object, and it's this one. It's an object that looks like this. And so I can go to this text object and maybe rename it to StartingStop. Okay, but now this has nothing, no value. I'm gonna take this one and put it there. Now we established a connection between this thing that we're writing and this text which we want to display on the screen. So if this is confusing to you, pause now, and I have a challenge for you, which is to take this text and try to look up on Google how to change the value of the text and display it onto the screen. I'm going to show you that in a second, but it's good for you to learn how to Google what you don't know and figure out these things. Just look up how to make a text, how to change the text value of a text variable and display it on the screen. And it's going to be very simple. So if you already did the challenge, good job. This is how you would do it. So let's go to where the pendulum starts or stops. After I start, I want the text value, which is StartingStop text dot text, to be equal to, so it was start to begin with, and I want to make it stop. I want to change the value of it to just say stop, because we already hit start at this point. That's a mouthful. Okay, and when I start it, or when I stop it, I want to make it say StartingStop text dot text equals start. Okay, let's try it. So I can start it, and then I can stop. I can start, stop, start, stop. Okay, so that's cool. This is working. Now we have a user interface that allows you to start and stop the pendulum. One last thing before we end this video. So this is a challenge for you as well. You should be pausing and trying things out for yourself. What I want you to try to do next is to get the initial rotation, of this pendulum, and whenever you hit stop, I want you to return the pendulum back to its original rotation. Okay, so please pause now, and I will see you when you do that. Alright, so I hope you tried it out. Let's just do it. It's not going to be very difficult. So you want to define a variable. Okay, so it's going to be a quaternion. The quaternion is just, it's a weird word, but it's just the variable, the type of variable that stores the rotation. So you need to know what kind of thing it is. You need to tell it what kind of thing it is, and this is a rotation. Okay, so I'm gonna call this initial rotation, and then I'm gonna give it the value of the rotation of the object. And remember, rotation is stored in this thing called transform. So in order to get access to it, this script can get access to this transform by just saying transform.rotation, and that's it. Save, and then when I stop this pendulum, I want to put the transform.rotation. I don't know why it said me there's an error. I want it to be initial rotation. Okay, and then let's try to start this. Oh, there's this expected. Okay, build successful. So let's try it. Start, stop, and notice how it jumps back there. Maybe you don't want it to do that, so you don't have to return it back, but if you want it to always return back, you just do this and stop, and it goes back there. So this is it for part 1. In the next part, I will show you how to display the timer and display the period of oscillation. And if you want more challenges, I want you to figure out how to display the mass of this object, write it here, and add more text variables to display the mass of the object and different things. Figure out how to just display some text and change its value from script. So I hope this was really helpful for you. I hope you're following along and learning a lot. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week.